Hey everyone, and welcome to the FourVision podcast. I'm your host, Ivo, and every week I'm going to have a conversation that matters about HR and HR technology. Hey everyone, welcome to episode 43 of the FourVision podcast. You know, all episodes are special, but this one is personally special because I will talk to a very good friend of mine. So, full disclosure, let me say hi to Luís Parada. Hey, Luís, how are you doing, my friend?
How's it going, man? Everything.
It's
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
it's a pleasure to have you on. I know Luís for almost 17 years, and he's one of the hardest working people that I know. He studied computer sciences, worked in the high demanding VFX industry, and is now the head of engineering in one of the most prominent and growing companies in Portugal. His career, slowly but surely, took the path to managing teams and people, and that's what we will discuss today. Did I get it right?
Yeah. Crazy ride so far. Yeah.
All right, let's start there then. Give us a small, small introduction about you and your professional background.
Right. So you said it. You said most of it. So I started computer science. I always wanted to go to 3D, but in Portugal, you remember back then there was nothing on 3D.
Yeah.
Going that direction, I ended up studying in the UK, and then moved to cinema and worked on some really cool movies like Interstellar, Fast and Furious, etc. Then decided to move back to Portugal, worked oil and gas industry and 3D in a startup, and left, right, bop. I ended up on Farfetch, and I started leading a team, and it just grew from. Started working, dabbling with management. I think was back in 2011. Still at TNEG.
Mm-hmm.
More leading teams on the stints in oil and gas in Abyssal. So in 2014. That thing grew, and then at Farfetch, that's all I've been doing. It's just leading teams, and then the team grew to an area, the area grew to the main, and
Yeah,
what we're doing. Yeah.
that's interesting. And how many people are you managing these days? You know, and can you give me a feeling of like what did you get any struggles? You know, like starting managing people from
So one of the things, the first thing is DNEG was amazing in the UK. It was amazing because I had to interact with everyone, and it's a very multicultural company, which allowed me to, create connections really, really fast.
Yeah.
Cool. Here, what we've done is I started when I joined Farfetch. I think we were a team of 5, so it's a standard team, so 4 to 5 developers and a lead.
Mm-hmm.
Through that to what we would call a cluster. So it's a cluster of teams, and I think we went all the way to 10. Eventually, I got invited to take over another area, which I did last year. And so far, that area, we started 17 this year, and we're going to end up with, I just checked, I think it was 36 or 37. So we grew substantially this year.
Yeah.
And that required a lot of coordination with talent acquisition. That required a lot of strategic path to how we want to grow, how we want to expand the area, because it's 3. So the area I'm on, it's essentially 3 very distinct verticals, different contexts, and they don't interact with each other in the sense of, if I hire for this team, it's going to be in this team. So we need a very strategic way of growing,
Yeah.
That was something that we've done at the beginning of the year with talent acquisition. And then we just went through the year.
All right. And as a manager, how challenging was it, to get to, from 5 people to 16 to now the 30 something? Do you think like the common struggles? I guess it's for everybody is different, but for you,
Yeah.
what do you thought, things that you learned through the process?
Right. I think from lead to manager. So Andreas will probably be listening to this eventually. It's very tricky. It's a very tricky thing because it's your team. And
Yeah.
to manager, you basically start managing leads.
Yeah.
And you delegate what was so close to you, and you need to be able to let go. I know that was extremely hard for me. It was at the same time that my daughter Beatrice was born. So actually, these things ended up. So I had to go in license, and so everything ended up okay. But I remember it was very, very difficult at the beginning to let go. When I came back, guess what? Everything was okay because
Yeah.
for me to let go. And I think everyone that goes through this path goes through the initial process of how do I let go of something that I'm on 24 hours a day, right? Once you go through that hurdle, I think everything is easier.
Okay.
Get used to delegating more and more, and you start. This was how I was taught. You start looking at different time spans in terms of strategic vision. So, for example, a lead looks at the team and looks at like 3 to 6 months. A manager looks 6 months to a year. Head 1 to 3 years, and then you see, and
Yeah.
that's the main differences. Then,
Okay. Interesting.
yeah.
All right. Let me ask you, what do you think are the three main things? If you have more, if you have less, doesn't matter. But what do you think are the three main things you try to do every day to manage people efficiently?
Right. Um, Open door policy. I'm always available.
Okay.
Now with remote, I know we'll cover remotes later.
Yeah.
Back in the office, so I'm always available for my team. They all know if it's something urgent, even if I'm in a meeting, I'll get out of the meeting. I'll get to them.
Okay.
Second one, transparency. Transparency is a tricky because everyone wants transparency until they have transparency, and then they don't want transparency anymore. But I do.
Okay.
Transparency leads to accountability, and we're all grown-ups, and this is essential for teams to be high performance. Is
Mm.
I'll give you all the information, and you act like grown-ups, and you digest this information, and you understand that this is a business, and we all do what's best for business. And the third one is I try to get out of the way. We hire
Okay.
people, and if I'm in the way, I'm in the way of them doing what they do best. So I think these three, it's a good start.
Perfectly insightful, I think. All right. Now let's move a bit to your connection as a manager or as a lead or as a head now. How much of a role as HR in your management style? Do you work closely? I know that you work with talent acquisition, but you probably work with other parts of HR. How is that relationship?
So I think HR at Farfetch, I work mainly with two different areas. I work with talent, and I have a very close connection with talent. So just as an introduction for all of this HR section, they are not part of my structure.
All right.
In every diagram I place, they're always there because we can't do anything without them, right?
All right.
So this is one thing I really want to pass on, because so many people create a barrier between what's the team and what's HR. And no, we're working alongside, right? And
Yeah.
growth and for happiness. So areas in HR that I work with, talent acquisition and business partners. So talent acquisition is pretty self-explanatory. We defined a plan, and we go through the hiring process, hiring strategy, and then there are different layers within talent acquisition. Business partners is something that we have at Farfetch. I know other companies in Portugal have that. They're basically, how do I explain? Someone within the people team, the HR, that help us. How do I explain this?
Kind of figure out the needs that you might have in the future in terms of people or like evaluating performance, those kind of things.
Is helping us evaluate performance, is helping us making sure that the teams are at optimum level. Is, for example, if someone is not happy, they will talk to their business partner. If someone's going to do, let's say, an internal move, we put everyone in the same room. So talent acquisition, business partners from both areas. So they're basically in charge of a big area within
Mhm.
tech. And if you have any issues, you go talk to them. One of the things that we do as head of an area is we have a very close proximity with business partners, because they help us in every day-to-day business decisions in the teams.
Yeah, and can you run us through like the process? Is HR one of the first functions that you connect when you need new people? I guess yes, but what I would like to know is like, do you define kind of the roles that you're going to need in the future as you see the company growing, or as you see your function growing, or is that a joint collaboration with HR
I
and business partners?
Yeah, I would say it's a multi-tiered process. So
Mm,
let's say that I identify a need in my team. I need a senior developer, let's say, something like
yes.
that. And then I'm going to talk. So I first need to say that I need a senior developer. It goes through budget. It either gets approved or not approved. If it gets approved, then we talk with talent acquisition, and we then get a phasing. So when can we hire? And we go through all this process alongside HR. I don't think business partners are not involved in this.
Okay.
Mostly talent acquisition, whoever is in charge of budget and finance.
All right.
It goes. So yeah, because HR is such a broad section, right?
True.
From what you decide. So if you consider finance HR, then yes, finance is heavily in.
Involved. Yeah. Yeah.
So depends on how you want to catalog that.
All right. All right. It seems like you have indeed HR is part of the day almost the day-to-day things that you do, and you find that to be important, and for them to have the tools to support you, the knowledge to support you in your day-to-day talent acquisition efforts, or measuring happiness people levels, for example.
Yeah, it's essential. Like one thing that it's extremely important is that it's for them to know our teams. It's really tough on them because a lot of times we look at our own structure. We look at our
Mm,
and belly button, always saying for
yeah.
but in their case, their structure is massive, because for us it's 35, 50 people. In their case, 200, and
Yeah.
is for them to know what works in one team, what doesn't in another, and then tries to make everything work for the structure that we have.
Yeah.
It's not an easy job, I would say.
Yeah. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Let me go over to something that you mentioned before, like the happiness, people's happiness levels, production levels. I know that you did some work. We've talked before about this. You did some work, or you're doing some work in like trying to acquire some data on this. So, what are the main data points that you use to measure people's happiness and production levels?
Right. So this was a challenge actually I got from my manager a couple of years ago, trying to predict how happy the teams were, or it's not so much how happy the teams are, but try to predict unhappiness.
Okay.
And at the time said, okay, we're doing retrospectives. So every 2 weeks we do a session saying, how did the 2 weeks go? So I'll just put a survey there. And that's how I started. So putting frowny face, a neutral face, and a happy face in the retrospective as a survey. Everything was anonymous. So we were still in the office.
Mm-hmm.
Is once you leave, you just do a mark where you're at. You don't need, no questions will be asked. You don't need to explain anything. And it started like this, in a very innocent way.
Yeah.
I started collecting data. 9 months after, I had really interesting data, because I had 9 months of data of every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to identify certain trends. I was able to identify alongside the leads that at one time we started pushing the teams a little bit too far. We were in sales season and on deliveries, and we started pushing a little bit too far, and the happiness level dropped.
Yeah.
We said, okay, let's stop right there and let's adjust. And as soon as we adjusted, we managed to get those happiness levels back up and still delivery. That's the most interesting thing. Is sometimes it's not so much that you won't deliver because you're not pushing. It's just you need to change the way that you're talking to the team.
Yeah.
It's extremely effective at the time. Since then, I don't no longer work with teams, and I'm not in retrospectives. I work with leads, individual contributors, and I started this year because I missed my happiness levels. I started doing the same challenge with my individual contributors,
Hmm.
and I changed the format a little bit. So instead of being 1, 2, and 3, happy, frowny, and neutral on a retro, is a 5 level because it's individual. You can be a little bit more precise.
Hmm.
5 levels, and I ask them like on one-on-ones. Sometimes I'm passing in the coffee. Happiness level, go.
Okay.
It's all of a sudden the idea is to catch them off guard because it's more honest.
Mm.
And sometimes they hate me for this, but yeah, I do like my metrics, and interesting because we already, and then I share the results with them every now and then. I say, look, this is how we're at, and we can see some people are always in the 4 and 5, always happy. Other people are always in the 2 and 3. Other people are 3 and 4, and that's the baseline. So the first thing is you need to identify a baseline for that person, and then you identify the differences and how do you call it, the changes from
Yeah.
baseline. And that's what you need to worry about. It's the changes. It's not that the person is constantly in the 3 or in the 4 or in the 5. If they're constantly in the 2, worry. If they're constantly in the 1,
Yeah.
but if they're in the 3, 4, or 5, it's happy or super happy.
Yeah.
It's then the changes that you need to start worrying. If they're, so I have one case where they're always in a 4 and they have a 1 in 1 week, and I always remember that one. He said, I had a horrible day. This happened, this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. Screw it, 1. And we know what happened that day,
Yeah.
and this was like 4 months ago. But these little trends help not just me, but the person as well, understand how they're viewing the team, how they're viewing their work. And because at the end of the day, I'm going to be very honest. At the end of the day, there are a ton of jobs out there. If we're not happy, what the hell we're doing?
Yeah.
You need to be happy there, essentially.
Get it.
Levels. You also ask production levels.
Yeah.
Production levels are a little bit more tricky.
Mm.
If you have a team that is working in sprints, Scrum, like
Yeah.
that's fairly easy to understand. So a team, I would say, takes around 7 weeks to get to a normal level, and then you say from that point on, that the team's expected to deliver X, Y, and Z. But it takes like 7 to 8 weeks of work.
Yes.
People leaving, people joining.
Got it.
And then you can predict, and then you can have production levels. When you start moving to a more Kanban or Scrumban, which is a mixture, or even free flow for whatever reason the team wants to work like that, I prefer to work with roadmap and objectives. So we define, we work with OKRs,
Mm-hmm.
and we try to work with a rolling roadmap approach. So meaning we can define a roadmap for 6 months or a year for the team. The month, so from now to a month from now, it should be locked. I'm going to underline always should, because things happen. The idea is to accordingly. So it should be locked within a month, and then really, okay, you can adjust a little bit for 2 months, and then you get more and more flexible as time goes by. But this way, the team always knows what's the end goal and how they're going to grow and what they're going to work on, what the priorities are. And that's really, really essential for the team. And then you deliver on that. You create your OKRs. That roadmap is going to fulfill those OKRs, and you create the objectives. And it's, it's
It's a cycle. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Question: do you relate those two data points, the happiness levels to the production levels? Have you seen trends? For example, when the happiness levels tend to go down, you also see an effect on the production levels. Do you actually mix those data points?
That's an excellent question. At this time that I'm working with, so individual happiness levels, it's trickier because it's very connected to the individual, and there are a ton of factors that can happen. So someone can have low happiness levels, and it's because of external factors, or it's because they have too much work, and they're just unhappy. It's easier when we're working with a team, because a team, things tend to even out. There you see it. There you understand when you have unhappiness levels. So the level goes down, goes like to 2. You might still get the delivery today. They're unhappy, but they're delivering. The problem is
It's over time.
It's over time. I've never let this spread, so I'm not able to answer you. Because if things go down, I always try to act within a sprint or two. You're fast enough. If you don't, over time, today they deliver. Tomorrow they might still deliver. Then a little bit less, and a little bit less, and then they're doing interviews for someone else.
Yeah, it's. I feel like what you start getting, because it is a team, is people start complaining to each other within the team, and then there's kind of a joint feeling of unhappiness growing, and people start not caring. That might be, actually, I think it's very smart of you to not let this keep going, and act right away, because you might have that kind of trend going. Yeah.
You said something that's extremely interesting, and this is something that we see is, let's say, a team of 5. It's very rare that you get everyone unhappy all of a sudden. It's very rare. It needs to happen. It needs to for that to happen.
Yeah.
What happens is you get one person that goes to and then unhappy, and then the second one, and then the second one, and then things just always start slowly. Again, identify your baseline. For example, I remember back in the day, there was in one of our teams, because at that time I was analyzing cluster data. So I think it was 3 teams, and I was analyzing everything aggregate. But I knew that there was one person that was consistently either neutral or unhappy. That we were working with that person. It was easy to identify, obviously. And that was the trend. We knew that we had this, that, and that. The problem is once that spreads.
Yes.
And it's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
This is something that needs to be stopped as soon as possible, for your sake as well, because you don't want to be leading a team that is unhappy. It's extremely stressful. So
absolutely,
it's tough at the first day to understand and say, okay, maybe I'm not doing the best job in the world. Maybe I need to change the way that I'm doing things. But if you open up and you let them talk to you, because a lot of the times people don't say things, perhaps, I don't know, because they feel that there are going to be repercussions at performance reviews.
Yeah.
Don't even get me started with performance reviews. That's another hour.
Yeah.
The thing is, if you create a channel for them to talk or send a message anonymously, it's easier for you to adjust and just take that message. They're saying something to you.
Absolutely. Listening is important. All right, a couple more things here. I would like to know what role does technology plays, and HR related technology specifically in your day-to-day job. You already, let's not dive too much into it in performance management and setting goals and feedback and all that, but do you have a relationship, or do you use HR technology in your day-to-day or HR related technology?
So we have a main software at Farfetch that we use for almost all HR tasks.
Mm-hmm.
Do that. I use it on a daily basis, from approving holidays, requesting holidays,
Yep.
performance reviews, pay slips. Most of it is there. Even for example, the hiring, we have all of our IDs there. Doing performance reviews, we do the reviews there. Our basis is all in that software.
Okay.
So we use another one for OKR management.
Okay.
So it's different. It's separate.
But it's kind of a functionality then that the tool doesn't have. So you actually
information. I don't know.
okay. All right, that's fine.
A number of things. It could be an add-on that is too expensive. It could be
Okay.
the other one we have a better deal. I don't have
Got it.
to answer that.
Got it.
So we use a separate one for OKR management that inevitably we use it for a performance review. There is no connection, but we do a manual connection.
Mm-hmm.
So we are very tech first. And I would say that, so in my 4.5-year journey at Farfetch, we've used a couple of softwares and we landed on these ones. And I think we're going to keep these ones because I think they're quite stable at the moment. Obviously, it's software. We all know that software has issues.
Yeah.
People sometimes have even more issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Humans tend to have more issues normally. Yeah.
Software. But yeah, we all find reasons to complain. It doesn't matter which software it is. We always say, oh, this is too slow, or this is too this, and this is too that. It takes 3 clicks to get there, and yeah. But
Okay.
we're a very tech-first company on that matter.
You don't need to complain a lot about it, but are there any any shortcomings that you see in the HR technology that you use, stuff that you would think could improve these platforms, are there anything? Speed? Okay.
It is one.
What you mean speed of use? Speed of using the
Yeah. I think the tool itself, it could be, and I might be unfair for the tool, and that's why I'm also not mentioning the name, because I don't want to be.
It's fine.
It could be that the structure is too big, right? We have a very intricate structure, and that might not work well with the software itself. I think the software is extremely all around. It covers most of the areas that we work on. But yeah, speed wise, especially in the hiring part. So one thing that I always feel like killing myself when I go there is understanding how many IDs I have for my team. It's a screen that takes, I don't know, 1 minute, 2 minutes to load, and
Ooh, okay.
it's a lot of time. Once you're used to
Yeah.
seconds, a screen.
Yeah.
Even 30 seconds, maybe it's 30 seconds into me, it's 2 minutes. I don't know, but it takes an eternity. And I know that because we want to do things very, very fast, that would help. One of the things that they've done, or at least that we have now, again, I want to make a difference then what is the software and what is our implementation of the software, is we have connection with Slack right now.
Mm-hmm.
I get, for example, holiday approvals pop
There. Okay.
I just approve from Slack, which is extremely fast,
Mm-hmm.
efficient. Yeah.
All right. That's good. Yeah, that's actually also.
Wait,
Go ahead.
another third software. I just remembered, for hiring.
For hiring.
Yes. Okay. So yes, but one for OKRs, one for all rounds.
Yeah.
Specific for interview process, job posting, and all that.
Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. We mentioned before remote work, or you touched that at some point on, remote work is here to stay, or at least hybrid work, let's call it. What do you think is the main challenge that it presents when you're managing teams?
It's a different paradigm. If you started like this, It's a normal day to day. You're used to this. You come from working as an individual contributor and you then move to a management position, and this is what you're used to. If you're an oldie like us,
Oldie, my God.
bald as hell,
Yeah. Okay.
used to be in the office,
Yeah.
uh, talk to people, to create connections. And this is one of the things that when we got home, this was in March 2020, it hit me very strongly. It's missing the people, missing the connections. But it went away very, very fast. I created some mechanisms to make sure that I could still interact with people.
Hmm.
From that point on, I was the biggest fan of remote. As time went by and the office opened, I think I've landed in a sweet spot, which is mostly remote, a little bit hybrid. So
Yeah.
what to do right now is I go to the office once a week on Fridays. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always open up a slot there. So I reserve a slot for teams if you want to go for coffee, if you want to chat. I think it's from 2 to 4 on Fridays.
Hmm.
For the teams, it's time reserved for them. But being that little bit in the office, to me, makes a big difference. And one of the reasons for this is something that happened a couple of weeks ago, which was someone that we got. So he came from South America.
Hmm.
And he asked his lead, so when is Parada in the office? I want to meet Parada. And the answer was, Parada is rarely at the office. It's like, okay. And oh man, that hit me like a brick, because it's like, there's this person that wants to meet me and I'm not there. So I need to adjust. And that's when I adjusted. That's when I started going once a week in the office. As a manager, if you have the possibility of creating that, of giving people the opportunity to be with you, it doesn't need to be every week, it might be every 2 weeks. Do it. Obviously, remote works. I think remote works.
Yeah. I think we saw that. Yeah.
I love remote. Like I set up this office here was nothing, was a storage for guitars.
Yeah.
And we made this out of nothing because of COVID and because of coming to work remote. But if you have the possibility of still creating a little bit of that personal connection, do it. I think it makes that sweet touch at the end, that helps, especially if you start getting away from the teams. Because if you are every day in a work stream with the teams, you create connection every day. You're there with them every day.
Yeah.
You're there with them every day. What happens to me is I'm like 3 levels from the team, so I'm not in dailies, and they see me every once in a while. And
Yeah.
then like, oh, there's this person that comes up and appears every now and then, like,
Yeah.
blue. And that's what I want to fight is the. So I saw this. I was discussing this on LinkedIn the other day. Ghost leaders. That's the example that someone gave me. It was ghost leaders.
Okay.
Know that you have a leader there, but he's a ghost. He's never there. He's never around.
So it shouldn't be the case.
No, it shouldn't be.
Okay. Okay. And what is the landscape of the team in terms of remote work? Do you have people fully remote? Do you give that opportunity to people in the team? Is everybody finding the same things that you're finding? You know that it's important to go there once in a while or once a week, twice a week, just to make those.
All right. So the idea of the company is, I don't. This is not in place still, so we're still having freedom for people.
Yep.
How they want to work. But the idea, I think, is a 60-40, going to 40% at the office. That's the idea.
Okay.
It's still yet to be implemented. In terms of the teams, I see a difference. It's different for every team. So
Okay.
have people a little bit far away from Porto, others extremely far away.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people that are close to Porto, they're at the office every week, even if it's once a week.
Okay.
I see them recurrently. But you start to see teams be there, like full teams, full day of, like on Fridays, you have full teams there. For example, this Friday, we're going to get the entire team of observability there, and you get people from Braga, from Covilhã, it's from everywhere, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, this needs to be prepared because, someone from Covilhã is not going to do like a 2-hour drive and then go home. So we need to work this. But we've all been seeing the advantages of going to the office every now and then, of being all together, and sometimes of just getting everyone in a room and just brainstorming some ideas
Yeah.
want to do. And to me, apart from the connection that you make with one-on-one, remote still can't beat everyone in an office with a whiteboard. I know we have a ton of tools. I know that we should be able to do that. I know it doesn't. To me, my experience is it doesn't even come close.
I think it's going to be very interesting to analyze the data in terms of happiness levels, the engagement of the team, having the two to compare, fully remote for the past couple of years, and now that people are meeting at the office more often. I'm sure you're gathering data for that, no?
I'm gathering some data. I think the main difference here is strengthening the culture. One thing I notice is teams that were strong in terms of culture got stronger because they go to the office, because they go for a drink at the end of the day, because they they laugh and they go for a coffee and they do.
Yeah.
And what I found is it doesn't need an official team building where you take an entire day off and go here or there, or what's it called? Is a vacation. There's a new term for this where people go on holiday as a team,
Okay.
It's a cool thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't, you don't need to go to that extreme. You can just be with your team and just go for drinks at the end of the day and just connect and get to know each other, because this is one of the things I've noticed, especially with remote. And I know there are a lot of ways of thinking in terms of leadership, and I might be absolutely wrong here, but it's my way of thinking here.
Yeah, of course.
I don't believe that you should go into a job and do like mercenary work. You go, you do your work, you code, and you go home. If you don't create connections, we're doing more than 8 hours here. So we split the day in 3. You're 8 hours sleeping, 8 hours with your family, and 8 hours there. If you're doing like non-emotional, zero, robotic,
Yeah.
what we're doing. So we need to enjoy that, especially now with the market the way that it is. We need to enjoy what we're doing.
Definitely.
That's where hybrid, I think, helped us here.
All right. That's a good way to almost. It's a quick question. I would like you to leave us with 3 things that you think, because I know that you're very active on LinkedIn with your content. You have a newsletter called Leaders Mindset and all that. I would like you to leave us with 3 things that people can start doing or learning today to start improving how they manage people. Go.
All right. Manage your own time efficiently. This is one of the biggest things I see new leaders. They don't know how to manage time, how to manage activity. And what ends up is they are extremely stressed because their calendars can be fully booked. They start working overtime. The team start noticing that they're extremely stressed, so they don't want to burden the manager with, oh, okay, I have a problem. Screw it. I'll wait.
Yeah.
And if you manage your time efficiently, it's going to pass on to the team, and the team's going to be more comfortable in talking to you. So this is number 1. Number 2 is review your decision-making process. One of the things being a leader, you need to make decisions, and are sometimes very sucky to do, but it needs to be done. You need to remove ambiguity. So rethink how you do this, rethink how you gather data, how you store data that will help you decide. This will be important. And number three, and I think it's extremely important, is care about your team. Again, it goes back to the thing I was saying before. I don't believe in the 9-to-5 robotic, I'm just here to do my job. I think that we need to create a community here, create a culture. And caring is the first thing. You need to not only manage someone, so approving their holidays and making sure that they do their tasks, but you need to know what they want with their career, what they want with their lives. And this way you guide them through that. 1, 2, and 3. I think that would be it.
Perfect. I think that's it. Thank you. Yeah, this was fun. We normally have these conversations for people listening. We have these conversations while sharing a glass of wine or something, or having dinner a lot of times. I hope to see you in Christmas, my friend. Thank you so much for being here, for all the knowledge shared. I hope it was, yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, basically.
So much for having me, man.
No problem at all. For everyone out there listening, thank you, and we'll see you next time.